This past weekend, Luminosity Makes Moves Miami 2023 went down, and I've already covered the top 8 extensively as a part of yesterday's video. If you haven't seen it, go give it a watch. However, as I mentioned near the end of that video, perhaps the most exciting part of LMMM 2023 wasn't the top 8 at all, but the bracket runs and upsets that took place just outside of the top 8, within the top 64. So today, dear viewers, we'll be going over every single major upset or upset run at Luminosity Makes Moves Miami 2023. Just a reminder that if you want to support me monetarily, you can do so using the links for my Patreon or channel memberships in the description below. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. For the sake of organization in this video, we'll be separating the upsets that we're covering into 3 categories. The first will be singular upsets, which are notable upsets that weren't followed up with more victories and so just stopped at a single upset. Still notable, but not leading into a run of any kind. It's worth noting that the vast majority of upsets in this first category won't have any Vods, but I'll try my best to find some that are somewhat related. The second kind that we'll be covering are the big upset runs, the ones where players made multiple upsets during their bracket path and caused quite a bit of buzz. This category is the main meat and potatoes of this video today, and what we'll be spending the majority of our time on. And lastly, the third category will be us briefly going over the upset runs that actually resulted in the player in question making top 8. We won't be spending too much time on these upsets since I covered the entire top 8 yesterday, but I'll still go over them briefly. Also, just as a ground rule, today we'll only be covering upsets with an upset factor of 2 or higher. With the groundwork laid, let's get into the upsets. For our first category, we're starting off with Cody, a hidden boss Peach main who got a great upset win over Omega 3-0 in pools for an upset factor 4 win. Although Cody unfortunately lost to Epic Gabriel and Fawn afterward, and Omega was able to make it out of pools, but it's a great upset regardless. Next up, we have Sisubado Gigante, a Florida Mario main who got a 3-0 win over Carflow, an upset factor 2 win. Funnily enough, Carflow had actually lost in winners to an upset as well, losing to Fuzix 3-1 in the only upset factor 1 win we'll mention today. Although Sisubado Gigante would unfortunately not make it out of pools, it's still a phenomenal win. The next upset is courtesy of SureHyper, a Florida Wolf main who got a Game 5 win over Peanut in pools, an upset factor 2 win. And although SureHyper would actually make top 64 from loser's side, they would unfortunately lose to Kairos 3-1 for 49th. Next up is Ave, a Georgia Mario main who managed to defeat Beastly in pools 3-1 in an upset factor 2, although unfortunately Ave would lose in top 64 to Tavares 3-1 for 49th. Our next upset is from Floridian Bayonetta main Nitty, who got a Game 5 upset win over PK Chris in an upset factor 3 to make top 64 from loser's side. Unfortunately, Nitty would lose their first set of top 64, losing to Big D 3-1 for 49th. Almost done, next we have Sabrick, who you might know for their tech they released recently on Twitter, who got an upset factor 3 win by defeating Tachyon 3-1 to make top 64 loser's side. Although Sabrick would unfortunately next lose to Rivers 3-1 for 49th. And lastly for this first segment, we have Mysterica, a well-known Palutena main who defeated TM7 Zap 3-0 for an upset factor 2 win to make top 64 through losers, unfortunately losing their next set to Big Duck Hunt Fan 7000 3-1 for 49th. Now it's time for us to take a look at the big upset runs, players that made multiple upsets during their time at LMMM 2023. Without further ado, let's get started. First up we have Guy, who got a great 3-1 victory over MK Big Boss in pools for an upset factor 2 win, making top 8 from winner's side. Unfortunately, Guy would lose their next set of top 64 to Aaron 3-1, dropping down into losers. Once here, Guy got one more upset win over Jen in the Game 5 set, before unfortunately losing their next set to Tavares 3-1 for 25th. Next up we have Sisalex, a Florida Nest main that went on an insane run and got one of the defining upsets of the tournament, defeating both Jja 3-0 and then defeating Big D, an upset factor 6 victory to make top 64 from winner's side. Unfortunately, once here, Sisalex would lose 3-1 to Cola, dropping down into losers. It was here that Sisalex got one more upset win, a Game 5 win over Chunky Kong, who, by the way, got double eliminated by Ness, a fate I wouldn't wish upon anyone. Unfortunately, Sisalex would lose their next set 3-0 to Atreus for a final placement of 25th as the 76th seed.
I'm honestly livid that happened. Oh, wait.
Oh no!
Dodge.
Oh
Wait.
no! Let it rip!
Oh!
Wait a second,
It's
what?
Popo and Sisalex wins
Did-
3-0.
Our next player is Apollo Kage, who actually lost to Neo 3-1 for their first set of top 64, dropping into losers. But it was in losers that Apollo Kage made waves upon waves of upsets, defeating Peebnut in a Game 5 set, an impressive win considering the matchup. But it was AK's next upset that was their biggest, as Apollo Kage defeated Light in a 3-0 set in one of the biggest upsets of the entire tournament, eliminating Light, the 4th seed, at 25th place. After this, AK defeated Aaron 3-0 before AK went up against and lost to Mudace in an extremely close Game 5 set.
Mini heart attack right there.
Oh yeah, and we were talking about it before.
Oh!
Right?
Mudace finding a nair, has the turnip in hand.
No
the up
way!
smash comes
He
through.
did that?
Game 5, last stop. Mudace clutches up.
And lastly for this segment, the player you've all been waiting to hear about, WebJP. WebJP's run may honestly be the highlight of the entire tournament. Web started off by making top 64 through winners after defeating Goblin in a 3-1.
He knows the danger that is afoot, and Goblin knows the power in his hands right now. If he gets his feet back on the stage, we can start making something happen right about now. But the parry might shut all that down.
There it is. Nice.
Oh, I had to see if it killed from center stage.
Now in top 64 winners side, WebJP got an insane win over Light in a 3-1 victory, upsetting the 4th seed and moving on in bracket. From here, Web defeated Neo in an extremely close Game 5 set, upsetting the Japanese Corn and moving into winners quarterfinals.
45% already. This is only a 30% difference
Oh,
here.
the down air!
The down air mix. What's the
mix! Oh my God! WebJP with the most insane conversion I have ever seen in my life.
The
What?
crowd goes in.
But unfortunately, Web next went up into winners quarters against and lost to Cola in a 3-1 loss.
Trying to kill this kid. The protagonist is still in effect here.
And the up tilt hit from behind WebJP, sealing out his winner's run, and Cola moves on with an intense
The
game
dab up there,
for
they're
the
good
dab of
friends,
respect.
man. Cola takes it 3-1. I don't think my heart could handle a Game 5.
I
don't think my heart.
This meant that WebJP dropped into the losers top 8 qualifier, where Web got matched up against Meister, a notoriously terrible matchup for Sheik. And unfortunately, Web would lose this set 3-0 for a final placement of 9th. And listen, I'm actually a fan of Meisters, but dang, I really wanted WebJP to make top 8, and I'm hardly alone in that.
Meister, very dangerous. The forward throw. Meister stuck. Left side blast zone, but there we
jab
go.
into it.
Jab to bucket is a true combo. If you get hit by that, you can say goodbye to your stock and say goodbye to your tournament run.
But now it's time for us to take a look at the crazy upset runs that resulted in top 8 finishes. Now, just a disclaimer, I'm not going to be covering any upsets within the top 8 between fellow top 8 finishers. If you want that, go watch yesterday's video. Instead, I'm just going to go over the 2 players who made upsets in order to actually make top 8. Those 2 players being Cola and Shattuck. Cola came into the event as the 21st seed and made top 64 by defeating Dominator in a Game 5 set, making top 64 through winner's side. Once there, Cola defeated Sisalex in a 3-1 victory before moving on and defeating Zomba just as easily, winning the set 3-1. And in one last 3-1 win, Cola defeated WebJP in order to make top 8 from winner's side.
Good get up there from Cola. No down smash from Zomba. And his IP gonna send him off stage. Gonna offer a ledge trap here. Cola gonna get it, and it's it!
Gets the chair.
3-1 with the Jair. Cola seals it in a very composed Game 4.
Yeah, Cola just finding the chair there. We haven't seen.
Shattuck came into the event as the 16th seed, making top 64 by defeating Sinji in a 3-1 victory. Once there, Shattuck defeated Tilde in a 3-1 before next going up against and losing to Spargo 3-0. Shattuck dropped into losers and had a long path ahead. Shattuck started this path by defeating Rivers 3-1, before next moving on and getting an insane 3-1 victory over MK Leo, before getting one more 3-1, a win over Riddles. These 2 phenomenal wins back-to-back are some of the most impressive upsets of the tournament, and it allowed Shattuck to make top 8 from loser's side.
Right now. Again.
Oh no!
What?
The armor on the rage drive for the up air. That's gonna do it. Yep, and Riddle
Shattuck
falls to Shattuck.
getting in the top 8.
That's gonna do it.
Is popping off. He's excited to enter top 8 blue side, cleaning it out.
Let's Make Moves Miami 2023 was a crazy tournament for spectator experience, with players like Apollo Kage, Cola, Shattuck, and WebJP putting on some of the best sets we've seen in Modern Smash in a long time. And if more of Luminosity's tournaments are like this, then I think Smash Ultimate is in a really good spot. That's going to be it for today's video. Before I go, shout out to my patrons Seth Laster, Farskull333, and my tier 2 patron Elitus, as well as my YouTube members Stormtrooper, Loco Soco, Mattoon, Robopoke, Diarrhea, DTR Jr., Defective, Neo, and my tier 2 members Mike G and Wu-Tang Forever. Tomorrow I'll be making a video on Seibugeki 15, but until then, I've been RisterMice, and thank you all so much for watching.